So picture this. You're waiting in line at your local coffee shop. The person in front of you, they're driving a slightly used, kind of dusty car, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans, just totally blending in. But here's the kicker. They're sitting on a seven-figure net worth, right? It's not luck. That right there is stealth wealth. I'm incredibly excited to dive into this with you today because we're going to unpack 14 very specific, totally unseen moves to quietly build real wealth. Let's get into it.
Now you gotta wonder, why are the loudest people rarely the richest? It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Like in our culture today, visibility is treated as absolute currency. We are constantly, and I mean constantly, bombarded by upgraded homes, brand new cars, the flashy social media posts. But here is the secret the actually wealthy know. Every single financial reveal you make, it just creates exhausting new pressures and expectations. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly why financial invisibility is literally your greatest asset.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our incredibly structured roadmap for today. We're going to cover the illusion of visible wealth, the psychology of invisibility, practical financial camouflage, and finally, the silent compounder. All right, starting off with Section 1, the illusion of visible wealth, or what I like to call the visibility trap. And this brilliantly illustrates the core problem. Social media flexing puts you directly in this blinding spotlight. Every vacation pic, every new purchase you broadcast, it's just data, right? Data that immediately attracts expectations, unsolicited opinions, and just this massive pressure for public performance. It is exhausting. But on the flip side, stealth wealth means zero drama and quiet accumulation. By choosing to live offline financially, you step completely out of that spotlight. You reclaim your mental space. You just completely stop feeling that need to constantly perform. Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of invisibility. Let's talk about the mental mechanics here. So, have you ever felt just entirely too tired to make a smart financial choice at the end of a long, stressful day? You know the feeling. Well, that's called decision fatigue. It's this behavioral economics concept where your willpower just runs completely dry. And this mental drain, it is the exact thing that directly sabotages your savings and investments. So how do we bypass that fatigue entirely? The answer is automation. It's literally a conveyor belt to your future self. There's this amazing story from our source material about a teacher who automated just $50 a week into her brokerage account and then she just forgot about it. For years, her wealth grew quietly with zero budgeting and absolutely no second guessing. Out of sight, out of mind. It turns investing into a totally non-negotiable inevitability, exactly like paying your rent. Now we're getting to the really fun stuff. Section 3, practical financial camouflage. How to stay hidden in plain sight. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the 30% housing rule. Most people will stretch their budget for the absolute nicest place they can possibly afford, right? And they end up incredibly house poor. But the wealthy, they intentionally keep their housing costs well below 30% of their take-home pay. Why? Because an expensive home is essentially a giant sponge soaking up your capital. The math on this is wild. Every extra $100 you spend on housing is $1,200 lost from investments a year. At an 8% return, that is nearly 60 grand in compound interest lost over 20 years. So keeping a modest home frees up your resources to buy actual income-producing assets. Let's emphatically contrast two guys here. Poor Peter and Rich Richard. So both of these guys make the exact same 80 grand a year. But Peter, he leases a flashy new car every few years for $600 a month, plus crazy high insurance, building absolutely zero equity. Meanwhile, Richard is over here driving a paid-off, super boring Honda for maybe $300 a month in upkeep. Over 10 years, Richard's extra savings become over $50,000 invested. An ongoing car payment is a recurring wealth killer, plain and simple. A paid-off car, that acts as an invisible shield against outflows. And speaking of outflows, take a hard look at this massive number, $290,000. I mean, where does that even come from? Well, it comes from ruthlessly plugging the tiny leaks in your financial ship. Think about all those subscriptions, Spotify, Netflix, Disney+, those meal kits. They seem so small in the moment, but the wealthy ruthlessly audit these things. If you cut out unnecessary subscriptions and redirect just $500 a month into investments at an 8% return, over 20 years, you create that staggering $290,000. And the best part? Nobody sees you cancel Netflix. It is entirely silent progress. Now, you might be wondering, how do you handle conversations about money without blowing your cover? You use selective transparency. Think of it like financial encryption. Step 1, share your strategies and philosophy. People love talking about ideas, right? But step 2, absolutely deflect the actual numbers.
If someone asks, just smile and say, "Oh, we're doing fine." You don't owe anyone specifics. And step 3 is brilliant. Space out major purchases. Actually, this is huge. If you upgrade your car, intentionally wait like 5 years before you move homes. This completely prevents sudden perceptions of wealth, making each purchase just look like normal, everyday progression.
Let's take that protection even deeper with structural financial insulation. Setting up an LLC, something generic like Oak Street Holdings, creates an immediate legal shield between your identity and your investments. You can also hide private income streams like dividends or freelance royalties behind it. But my absolute favorite tactic here is the secret emergency fund. Keeping 6 months of living expenses completely private in a high-yield account is basically like having a hidden airbag. It's ready when disaster strikes, but invisible until needed, so nobody expects you to be their personal bank. And finally, you can practice authentic camouflage through anonymous giving. You let your values shine without any of the pressure of public recognition.
All right, moving into our final section. Section 4, the silent compounder. This is all about the magic of delayed gratification. Let's move to and see how this builds over a timeline to beat lifestyle creep. So month 1, you get a promotion and a nice raise. Awesome. But instead of instantly upgrading your life, look at months 2 through 12. You freeze your current lifestyle. Our source material shares an incredible anecdote of a graphic designer who got a raise but intentionally kept living with her roommates for a whole year. By year 2 and beyond, she had invested all that extra money, and the dividends from those very investments actually generated enough cash to cover her eventual rent upgrade. I mean, how cool is that? Now compare that quiet patience to flashy crypto or real estate flips, which, let's face it, rely on high drama. Instead, utilize boring index funds and dollar-cost averaging. If you quietly compound your money in the broad market at a historic 8 to 10%, you absolutely destroy the excitement and drama of flashy investing. Literally, investing just $25 a week in an S&P 500 index since 2013 would give you well over 20 grand today. Sure, it is quite literally like watching paint dry, but the results? They are incredibly powerful.
As we wrap up this explainer, let's quickly review the 3 pillars of stealth wealth. First up, privacy. It protects your progress and acts as your financial insulation from outside expectations. Second, automation. This removes the need for daily discipline. It's basically your financial cruise control. And third, consistency. This compounds your results and builds unstoppable momentum. So the absolute most crucial point here is action. I want you to commit to just one single action step this week based on these strategies. Automate a transfer, audit those sneaky subscriptions, or just practice deflecting a nosy question about your income. I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful thought. The richest form of wealth is the kind you don't need to prove. Wow, it completely reframes everything we are taught about money, status, and success, doesn't it? Think about that as you go about your week. In our next explainer, we're going to build on this by exploring how stealth wealth actually unlocks opportunities, like how to negotiate from a position of absolute strength without anyone knowing your real leverage. Remember, your quiet journey starts today. So what's the very first stealth move you're going to make? Thanks for focusing in with us, and I will catch you next time.